Is Barcelona better than Bali? Yeah. Okay. We'll see you this summer. I want to share with you today the blueprint that for a long time I was following to get the good life. You do well in school, so you can go to a good university. You do well, graduate, and get out and get a great job with high pay and excellent white teeth, like that guy. That means you can start a happy family. You work well, retire, and you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. Then you die. But that's okay, because you know you've lived a good life with no regrets. Now, here's how many of the people that come to me end up experiencing this version of the good life. You struggle through school. So you can go to a university and study something that your parents or a teacher told you was a good idea. You come out with a huge student loan debt, or you take on a mortgage or car payments or whatever else we do to make ourselves feel like we've made it in the world. So this means you need to get a job. Any job, even if you secretly hate it. And it leaves you burnt out, so things are not so happy at home. You spend more time with your colleagues than you do with your own kids, because, hey, you're going to have to pay for their education, right? And at the end of it, assuming your company hasn't dismantled your pension program, you too are free to live the good life. So this gap between the theory of a good life and the reality of how to create one is this living dichotomy for people that I meet almost every day. It's a classic example of something that I think we can all relate to, right? This is my life, but this is my life on Facebook. So that was my story for a long time. I looked like I had it all figured out. I earned a great salary, had a pension, benefits, 6 weeks of holiday a year, and some pretty interesting travel opportunities. And I had a pretty kick-ass job title. But something was missing. I wasn't quite sure how to put my finger on it, but what it came down to was this. How things looked and how things felt were not aligned. The truth is, I was living a life I no longer believed in. So what did I believe in? At that point, I wasn't sure anymore. So I had a very early onset midlife crisis. I was 32 years old, and I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. The education my parents and I had invested so heavily in had almost no relevance to what I was actually doing in my life. Worse than that, it did nothing to prepare me for the changes that were happening in the shifting economy or the personal resilience I needed to shift along with it. So at 32, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. But I did know what I didn't want. I didn't want to spend the majority of my working career in a cubicle that was this big. I didn't want a job that was so overwhelming that I never saw my family. And I didn't want to have the best parts of me, my idealism, my creativity, my inspiration, slowly chipped away. So just when things were getting really good, I did what any sane, responsible person would do. I left it behind, packed up my bags, picked up my family, and moved to Bali. So when I got there, turns out I wasn't the only crazy one. I was almost late to the party. There was CEOs of global corporations there on sabbatical who weren't sure they wanted to go back. I met lawyers and aid workers who were disillusioned with what they were doing and wanted to do something different. I met entrepreneurs in between businesses, artists in between jobs, mothers who had been out of the workforce for some period and looking to get back in, digital nomads looking to create a location-independent life, and many, many post-cubicle survivors who were escaping the 9-to-5 and reinventing themselves as entrepreneurs and creative professionals. It was the most talented group of unemployed people I've ever met. So the thought crept in, if we were to catch all of these creative geniuses at this transitional point in their life and bring them together into one place, what would be possible? So we opened a community co-working space called Hubud in Bali, which acts as a gathering place for people that are transitioning out of conventional work and into the creative economy. Since we opened 22 months ago, we've had around 1,800 members from 60 countries. they're all coming to Bali to do exactly this. So from Colombia to Kazakhstan, from Singapore to Spain. Actually, we have a lot of Spanish people in Bali right now. I've heard you guys have a lot of creative, talented, unemployed people at the moment. There's a lot that have found their way out there. So most of the people that come have three things in common. One, they're looking to do work and life differently. Two, many of them need help figuring out what that actually means for them in their life and what they need to do to get that. And the third is they're expensively trained minds, lots of people with masters and PhDs, extensive corporate experience, didn't have the tools they needed to navigate this turning point in their life. Now, put up your hand if you've changed jobs more than 2 times. Okay, how about 5 or more times? A lot. In my parents' generation, many people would have a single career for their entire working life. In my generation, I'll change jobs about every 5 years. And in the millennial generation, so that's people between 18 and 32, are there any millennials here? Okay, you guys are going to change jobs every 2.5 years, or 15 to 20 times during your working life. Think about that for a minute. 15 to 20 times. There is no degree out there that could possibly prepare you for that degree of radical change. You will need to be lifelong learners, constantly seeking out timely and relevant education to help you as the road turns and bends. We call this just-in-time learning. So similar to the idea of just-in-time manufacturing, where parts arrive at exactly the point in the production cycle that they're needed, just-in-time learning is about people learning what they need to know, when they need to know it, and when they can apply it. Because think about it for a minute. Try to front-load your education when you're 18 or 20 years old with an expensive degree filled with things that you may need someday. Simply doesn't make the same sense that it used to. I want to give you a couple of examples of real people. They're all under the age of 40, just to illustrate how completely different people's lives end up being than they think they're going to be. So I used to work as a tour guide at a winery. It's the best job. Then I ended up clearing landmines in Cambodia with the UN. And now I'm a chronic entrepreneur in Bali. Mike, a friend of mine, was an investment banker. He quit and became a copywriter. And now he runs an elephant trekking company in India. Renee was a gender analyst, turned life coach, turned global education evangelist. And my personal favorite is Penny, who is a drug dealer, turned real estate lawyer, and now runs a very successful e-commerce website. And no, she's not selling drugs or real estate. There's been this complete switch. But the point is, nobody's going to give you a job. And I think we all know that the idea of a career for life isn't happening anymore. You have to be prepared to create it. So, scratching our own itch, we launched an education platform recently called TurnPoint, which was to help our community keep pace with the creative economy that they're working in. And it's given us a lot of insight into the idea of how do we learn best? Because we've run now around 300 learning events in the past 2 years between Hubud and TurnPoint. The first is the idea of an immersive learning environment. So if you've ever tried to squeeze learning into little cracks of your life, like while you're on the metro in the morning or in the shower, it's much more effective to actually take yourself out of daily life and immerse yourself in the subject that you're learning, if that's for 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, or what have you. I did a few Spanish lessons a little while ago on my podcast. I just listened to them and I thought maybe the Spanish would go right in. And then I arrived in Barcelona a few days ago and this is what I'm left with. Hola. Mi nombre es Steve. Me gusta beber leche. And that's it. The second is the idea of where you learn. So if you learn somewhere that is inspiring, that's beautiful, you learn much better than if you're in a classroom with fluorescent lights, which tends to inspire depression more than anything else. Third is, we learn better with other people. It inspires us, it motivates us, it gives us a sense of social accountability. The fourth is, you learn better in an environment where you're given the permission to connect to yourself. So that means creating your work and living your life along with your own values instead of according to somebody else's script. And finally, learning with people from different nationalities, age groups, income brackets, and life experiences gives a perspective that is completely invaluable. Because the education we need to thrive in the new economy is very difficult to be taught in the traditional classroom, no matter where it is. And while universities are vibrant places of learning, there's still this microcosm onto themselves. So why not use the world as your campus, where you can take full advantage of the opportunities and perspectives that it will give you? Because ideas are everywhere. Inspiration is everywhere. Information is everywhere. So why would we limit our learning to institutions and their curriculum? It's not just about a change in location. It's about a change in mindset. So my question to you is, why did you get an education? The promise for a long time has been that if we follow certain steps, we'll be rewarded with a good job. But increasingly, that promise isn't being honored anymore. What we need is an education that prepares us for life, a good life, a really, really good life, one where we feel inspired, creative, productive, and connected, one where we can create work and live life in line with our own values. This growing community of people isn't looking to escape the regular world for better work-life balance. It's not about the fantasy of running your business from a beach chair. It's not about the idea of working less. It's not about finding that mythical balance between work and life. It's much more than that. It's about putting more life into your work so we can all live the lives we post on Facebook. Thank you.